Hello everyone and welcome to an all-new episode of Sports Path. On today's show, we watch some boys tennis highlights as White Bear Lake takes down Maple Grove. Then we show you an interview with Olympic gold medalist Hannah Brandt. You won't want to miss this episode. Stay tuned as we take you down the Sports Path.
Share our experience with the community and be able to go out and skate with some of the other kids. And just excited to be back home, and this is where I grew up.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Path studio. It's been a long 2 weeks. Once again, I'm out without my main man, Sam. If y'all don't know, Sam is coaching the 9th grade baseball team for one of our Fab 4 schools. He's over at White Bear Lake. We're hoping Sam can actually give us a little bit of insight on the program as the baseball season unfolds. And we hate to disappoint all of you Sports Path diehards, but it's our second to last episode of the season. Believe it or not, the end of the school season is in sight and spring sports will be over before you know it. Our last episode will actually take place 2 weeks from today. That'll be May 16th, so don't forget to set your DVRs. Tune in at 7 p.m. on May 16th for the very last episode of Sports Path for the 2017-2018 school year. This episode will truly be a special one. We have an interview with Olympic gold medalists. We also have some new athletes of the week who have never received this award before. And we know the snow has put quite the damper on the spring season so far, but that means we've got a jam-packed month of May here coming up. Now, today we want to begin the show like we always do. That is by scouring social media for the latest news surrounding our Fab 4 schools. That means we got the social media montage. Now, to start our social media montage, we are featuring a tweet from Tartan Activities Director Brian Munter. He tweeted about a very important Tartan graduate that returned to the Twin Cities recently. On April 26, Mark Abbott, the Major League Soccer Deputy Commissioner, was in town to start Minnesota United FC. Mark Abbott is a graduate of Tartan High School, if you guys didn't know, and many Tartan grads have gone on to do great things, and this is just one prime example. We always love following Brian Munter's tweets as well. He lets us know what's going on. And next up, we hop over to the North Activities account and see that the Minnesota Twins hosted a Minnesota Adaptive Athletics Night at their game on April 27th. The State High School League currently has many adapted athletic programs, including softball, bowling, floor hockey, soccer. And it's great to see the Twins supporting adapted athletics. It'd be even better if they started putting a competitive program on the field, but I digress. Let's go back to high school sports. You guys can always tweet at us. The Twitter handle for SEC is at SEC Sports, and my Twitter handle, as always, is at John SEC TV. You can always find us tweeting out all the latest news for SEC Sports there, so you don't really have to wait for juicy SEC material every 2 weeks here on Sports Path. And then with that, we wrap up the latest edition of the social media montage. Now, actually, while we were doing some research for the social media montage, we found something that we think is pretty cool. We knew that White Bear Lake High School has a mountain biking club. We did not know, and we know a lot of people didn't know. So check out this short video that was made to promote the family-friendly Bear Power bike ride at Otter Lake Elementary. Yeah, some bicycle diehards. As you can see, there's some snow still on the ground, so that must have just been a week ago. And the Bear Power Bike Ride decided to use some White Bear Lake mountain bikers as the actors to promote their event. And if you are interested in the White Bear Lake mountain biking practices, they actually do start mid-July, and the racing season starts in late August and runs until the state championship race, which takes place in October. And of course, racing is not required to be a part of the club, so if you are a student at White Bear Lake High, make sure you could check them out if you're interested in the biking club, as well as check out their Facebook page for more information. Now we're going to start getting into the spring sports. Let's start out with girls lacrosse. We'll take a look at the Metro East standings for girls lacrosse. Matamidi is currently undefeated. They have a 2-0 conference record, and they are actually 4-0 overall. They're starting out super hot to the season. They actually are taking on conference foe tonight, undefeated Hill Murray Pioneers. Matamidi and Hill Murray is turning into quite the rivalry in hockey as well as lacrosse. As we know, those two love to go at it at each other. Now Tartan is 1-3. North St. Paul is 2-3 overall, so not too great of a start for those teams in their seasons, but it's still early, however. Now we'll go over in the Suburban East, where White Bear Lake is struggling so far. They're 1-1 in conference, 2-2 overall. Park of Cottage Grove is absolutely on fire to start the season. They tend to have a great team every year, as they're 4-0, 6-0 overall. And the Bears will have quite the season. Well, they'll have to have quite the season to match them if they're going to catch Park of Cottage Grove. Now taking a look at the boys lacrosse standings. Here we're going to start out with the Metro East. Matamidi is off to a 3-1 start. If you look there, they're 2-0 in conference. That's their record. They currently are in second place. Their star Timmy Lindquist has 12 goals and 11 assists on the year. Lindquist, as you guys all know, has been outstanding for not only the lacrosse team, but he balled out on the basketball court during the winter. He was actually a pretty decent wide receiver for Matamidi football, so he will be missed once he graduates this summer. As you can see, they only trail Hastings by 1 game. Now Tartan and North St. Paul are actually winless so far this year, but there's plenty of season left to get back on track. Now we're going to take a little bit of a look at the Suburban East, where White Bear Lake currently resides. They're 5-0 on the year with a 2-0 record in conference. Eric Bloom, who was an outstanding interview we had on the last Sports Path, just a sophomore, is leading the team. He has a team-high 20 assists and is second place on the team with 14 goals. So that's 34 points for the young man right there, doing big things for the White Bear Lake undefeated squad. Now we're going to take a look over at softball standings. Let's head to the Diamond, where we're going to take a look at the Metro East. North St. Paul is leading the way in the Metro East. They have the most conference wins and are sitting at 3-0 in conference, 5-0 overall, ahead of Tartan. Junior pitcher Ashton Putzier is dealing so far this year. She has 5-0 record with a 1.85 ERA, just absolutely dealing out there. And now we're going to take a look at Tartan. Tartan's currently 2-3 in conference, and that is their record as well. And Matamidi not doing so great to start off the year. They have a 1-2 conference record and a 3-3 record overall. Now I'll take a look at the Suburban East standings, where White Bear Lake is 3-3 overall, and that is their conference record as well. As you can see, Forest Lake 5-0, 8-0 overall, as well as Park of Cottage Grove starting off undefeated. So not an easy conference over there in the Suburban East for White Bear Lake. Now we're taking a look over at the boys baseball standings. Not too great of a year, or not much baseball has been played so far. Tartan is your Fab 4 team that is doing the best so far in the Metro East. They have a 2-1 record. They're 2-0 in conference. Matamidi is 1-1 in conference and 1-2 overall. And North St. Paul has only played in 1 game, which they lost. As you can see, Hastings and Sibley starting off undefeated, but it's still early. Now we'll check out White Bear Lake in the Suburban East, see where they are sitting. White Bear Lake isn't off to too hot of a start out the gates. They're 2-3 overall. The bright side is that they're actually 2-1 in conference, so if they keep that record going in conference, they're going to have a nice start. As you can see, Mounds View sitting over there, 4-2 overall and 4-2 in conference. So lots of sports to be played in the month of May. With the snow in April, it really canceled a lot of games. Many games had to be rescheduled for this month, so we should have a pretty jam-packed month of May. We don't have many stats for you guys for those sports, and that's due to the fact that lots of lacrosse teams and baseball teams just aren't entering their stats into the hubs. So they'll likely do that later on in the season. Now, we're going to show you a highlight of sports that we haven't showed in a while. We're going to show this highlight of White Bear Lake taking on Maple Grove. tennis at White Bear Lake South Campus. Cooper Anderson and Ben Backey face off on a windy day in the top singles match as White Bear Lake takes on Maple Grove in boys tennis. First set started out 3-3, so that leads us to a 7-point tiebreak. Late in the tiebreak, Maple Grove leads by 1. Anderson leads back to the left side, and then he fires it across the right side on the next shot. It's 5-5 tie in the tiebreak. Anderson's coming from behind. Next serve play comes to a close quarters as Ben Backey eventually hits this one out of the back of the court. That's 6-5 White Bear Lake lead. Let's see if Anderson can keep it up. He eventually gets up close to the net here. He'll hit it again, and then he gets a little bit of a chip shot to the left side. Backey returns it right into the net. That's a win for White Bears. Anderson comes from behind in the tiebreak to win 7-5. That's 4-3. You have to win by 2, so they play another game. Anderson in this one, as Backey serves into the net after already having the fault, so that's a 5-3 win in set 1. In set 2, we're going to head over to Cooper Anderson easily will take down Ben Backey, winning every game in the set. Here's the final point. Anderson takes the win in the top of the singles match, just getting that little jab in there, and the Bears ended up winning that match with a team score of 4-3. We actually caught up with Anderson after the match to see what he thought about that fierce win that they had to go through that day.
The win took a while to get used to. It was different on both sides, so it was an adjustment playing on both sides, but once I was used to it, it didn't really factor in much. It was a good win. We still got some guys playing. I think all of our double spots won the first set, so that'd be a good team win if we can end up pulling it out. Yeah, absolutely. There's a guy who played a little bit on the pro tour. He's retired now, but he was a volleyball player in college, and he was ambidextrous, and some guy approached him and asked him to use this racket, and he really loved the idea, and he ended up buying half the company. And I actually met that guy, and he let me play with the racket, and I thought it was a really cool concept, and it was really interesting. It's a huge adjustment to get used to, but once I'm used to it, I end up liking it more.
Now, if you didn't notice during those highlights, and if you didn't get what Cooper was talking about, he was using a special tennis racket that had 2 handles. I've actually never seen that before, and I don't think anybody has. So congrats to Cooper and the rest of the White Bear Lake team on that big win. Now, folks, we're going to go off to a little something special today. We bring you a special interview. Many of you know that Vadnais Heights is home to a few Olympic athletes. One of those athletes is a gold medalist. Well, we recently invited Hannah Brandt into the studio for an interview. Joe Cullen, the host of Northeast Journal on SEC Government, interviews Hannah Brandt in the SEC studios here on the latest edition of Former Fab 4.
In February at the Winter Olympics in South Korea, Hannah Brandt from Vadnais Heights won a gold medal as part of the U.S. women's hockey team. Hannah is here today to tell us about her Olympic experience. And Hannah, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me here.
And last month on our show, we had a story about you and your sister, Marissa, and the event they had in Vadnais Heights to honor you guys. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers are already kind of familiar with who you are, but first off, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? I understand you're originally from this area, Vadnais Heights.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Vadnais Heights, and then I played youth hockey for White Bear Lake, and it was so much fun to be able to come back and have that event with my sister and be able to share our experience with the community and to be able to go out and skate with some of the little kids. And I'm just excited to be back home, and this is where I grew up, and this is where I want to be able to share my experience with.
And now I understand you played hockey in high school at Hill Murray,
Yep.
and then collegiately at the University of Minnesota.
Yep.
So you obviously played a lot of hockey, you know, in this area, especially in the state. When did you first kind of find out, or, you know, what was the process of getting to be part of the, you know, women's national team and then ultimately on the Olympic team?
Yeah, it's a long process. I remember when I think I was 8 years old, I watched the 2002 Olympics with my mom, and I told her I want to be out there one day. So that was kind of when I set my goals of making an Olympic team. But the process to actually get there, it's a long, tedious thing. You go to camps and stuff all growing up, development camps, and I made my first national team. It was a U18 team. I was a junior in high school, and then actually the next year, as a senior in high school, I made the actual national team. I went to the World Championships as a 17-year-old. I was the youngest one on the team. And then from there, you just keep getting asked back or cut. So I got cut from the 2014 Olympic team, which was unfortunate, but made it in 2018. So I guess the journey, it was hard, but it was worth it.
And now, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, but your sister Marissa is also a hockey player. She played in the Olympics for the, I guess, unified Korean team. And you guys were getting a lot of, attention for that. Not only that your sisters, both the Olympics, but the fact that you're playing for different countries. What was that like when you knew that she'd be over there playing, and just kind of everything that went into that? I know she was adopted from South Korea, so that was kind of unique too, that it wasn't like you guys were playing in Canada or something, but kind of all this just kind of came together at once.
Yeah, it was crazy how everything kind of worked out. 3 years ago, she got a call asking her to come over to Korea for a tryout, and she had just graduated from Gustavus, so she thought she was done with her hockey career. And she said, hey, why not give it a shot? So she went over there, didn't know anyone, didn't know the language very well, but she kind of fell in love with it. Her teammates were amazing, the coaches were amazing, so she stuck with it, kept going, and so she found out she had made the team, and then soon after I found out I made the team, so we were like, wow, we're going to do this together. So it was a great experience being able to see my sister in the Olympic Village, kind of hang out with her, go cheer her on, for her to be able to come cheer me on. But as both athletes, not just one of us supporting the other. It was just kind of cool to, go through that with her.
Now with, all the different scheduling and the, just sheer amount of people that are over there, I mean, was it tough to have a lot of time together?
Yes and no. I mean, it was better than we had been used to. I mean, I had been training in Florida and she had been training in Korea, so we hadn't had any time together for the past year or two. So we made it work. We kind of saw each other at least once a day. Getting to her games is tough just because, like you said, I mean, there's so many people, so many things going on. Our schedules are different, but I figured out the bus schedule. I got to as much of her games as I could. Sometimes it was a period, sometimes it was 2 periods, but I did my best to be able to support her, and she was able to make quite a few of my games. So it worked out pretty well, but it wasn't the easiest.
Now, tell us a little bit about your Olympic experience. I mean, it's something, most of us watch on TV, and I'm sure it's hard for us to imagine what it's really like. But, I mean, what was the whole experience like, from the opening ceremonies on through?
Yeah, I was the same way. I'd always watched it on TV, and I'd imagined being there, but until you're actually there, it's so much different. I mean, the opening ceremonies was pretty cool. You lay out your whole outfit, you get all dressed up with your roommates, take pictures, you get there, and this is kind of the first moment you realize you're at the Olympics. You're in a room with, all the athletes from all the other countries, but, almost starstruck by your own Team USA athletes. You see Shaun White, Lindsey Vonn, and you're just in a room with all these people, and you're just on their team at that point. So that was pretty cool, and then to walk out with all of them, I'll never forget that. And right before I walked out, my sister had just gotten there. Their team came a little later because they're obviously the last one to walk out. So she ran up and found me moments before I was about to exit. And so we got a little emotional there just because didn't think we were going to see each other. So that was pretty cool. But just in general, being at the Village, meeting the other Team USA athletes, other athletes from around the world, it's amazing. And being able to go support them and watch all these different events. We're used to just having our own event, the Women's World Championships hockey, and you don't get to see snowboarding or figure skating. So it was really cool.
Now, even going into the games, were you fairly confident that you guys would, either win or at least be in serious contention for the gold?
Yeah, we've always been, I think we went in ranked 1 or 2. It's usually us in Canada, and so we were confident for sure, but we lost our first game to Canada. So going into that gold medal game, we needed that revenge. I think we had lost 5 or 6 in a row to them in the lead up to the Olympics as well. So you never know what's going to happen, but I had a lot of confidence in my team and my teammates, and knew we had the ability to get the job done and come back with a gold medal.
And the gold medal game itself, like you said, against Canada, proved to be quite exciting with, a shootout to finish it. I imagine, it would be a stressful and nerve-wracking experience, under any circumstance, especially to have it end that way. I'm sure it was, quite an experience for your team.
Right. Yeah. Once the overtime buzzer ended, I knew right away. I knew we were going to a shootout. A lot of people didn't think it would ever end in a shootout. I knew that was the rule. It was hard to believe that it actually was going to go to a shootout, but it did. And I found out I was shooting. I was a little nervous, but what can you do? You got to just go out, and we've done shootouts a million times. Just go out and do your thing. But yeah, it was to watch Maddie Rooney make that last save, and to know that you actually won a gold medal. That was one of the coolest feelings. And to be able to throw your gloves, it's awesome.
And what's the experience like? We see it on TV. One of the athletes stand there, and our national anthem's played, and you're getting your gold medals and stuff. What's going through your head at that point?
Yeah, it's just you're kind of thinking about all the hard work and dedication you've put in, the ups and the downs you've had throughout your career, all the people that have helped you get to that point. And I could look up and see my parents and my sister in the stands, but I knew all the people back home watching from at 2 or 3 a.m., whatever time it was, and all the people that had gotten me to that point. So just kind of reflecting on that, but while you're standing with your 22 teammates belting out the national anthem, it's a pretty cool feeling.
I know, just from seeing some of my friends on Facebook and things like that, there were a lot of tired people the next day going to work that had stayed up very late to watch the whole game, and obviously it went longer than even I think people thought it was going to. Did you have additional time over there once you were done, or did you have to come back right away?
Yep, we stayed, I think it was 3 or 4 more days until the closing ceremonies, and then as soon as the closing ceremonies were done, we went home the next day. But yeah, it was nice to be able to have a few more days there, enjoy the win, and then be able to really experience the Olympics and not worrying about tiring yourself out and whatnot. So we got to watch the curlers win the gold medal, that was a lot of fun, and just kind of get to really explore the villages and the other events and stuff.
That's great. And I know you had a pretty busy schedule even once the games were done. I kept seeing, on Instagram, different places that you guys were, all over the place.
Yep.
Tell us about some of the things you got to do once you came back to the U.S.
Yep, so our first stop was LA. We went directly from Seoul to LA, got in at 6 a.m. and we're on the Ellen Show that day. I went to a Kings game, then we were down to Florida, Tampa Bay Lightning game. That's where we trained all year, so that's kind of why we went there. And then East Coast, I think we did a Capitals game, a Wizards game, Rangers. We were on the Jimmy Fallon Show. I'm probably leaving things out, but we did a lot of cool things. But I think the coolest thing that we got to do was just interact with fans and some of the little girls that had been watching our game and just hear all of their stories about how much pride they had watching us play. And I think that was the coolest thing, being able to share the medal and our experience with them. And
as we mentioned at the top of this interview, you guys came back and they had an event in Vadnais Heights that honored both you and your sister. What kind of emotions were going through? I know it was tough even just to line that up because you and your sister had kind of unique travel schedules. You guys had barely, been in one place at the same time. But you and your family, your parents were there too, had this event that was put on for you guys. What did you think I was there, and what did you think when you first came in? Were you surprised how many people were there? Yeah,
it was incredible for it to work out the way it did with us only having one day for the city of Vadnais Heights to put on such a great event. And it was incredible to see how many people came out to show their support for us and to welcome us home. It really felt like a welcoming, and I know I was pretty happy about it, and I know it meant a lot to my whole family.
Yeah, I imagine it must be something to sit there, and I know you guys had like your high school coach, I think, spoke, and the mayor, and your parents got to speak, and people that I'm sure were instrumental in the whole journey from when you're little on up, and it was neat to see all the really little kids in their little white bear jerseys and stuff, little girls especially that, I'm sure they're the next generation, so who knows, 10, 15 years, they might be in the Olympics themselves.
Yeah, like you said, to have all those people that played such a big role in me and my sister getting to where we had gotten, that was really special to us. And then also to have the little girls there that I was in their shoes 10, 15 years ago, and hopefully I can be a good role model for them and give them someone to look up to, and hopefully they can be in my shoes one day.
And right after the event, you got to go right outside there and skate with some of the kids because they had named the rink there by the Commons area in the Hannah and Marissa Brandt rink or something to that effect. Imagine that must be a great honor too. Yeah,
that was a surprise to us, and it was really cool to hear the mayor say that he was going to name the rink after us, and to be able to then go out and skate. They'd gotten the ice already for us to go skate out there, and I know the girls had a lot of fun skating. It was cold, but anytime you get to skate with a group of girls that are excited to be out there with you, it's a lot of fun.
And I know your schedule really hasn't let up a whole ton, and we're already a couple months past the Olympics. What kind of things are you up to these days?
Yeah, I'm traveling a lot. Some of it's for fun, some of it's media stuff, but when I am in town, it's just kind of taking care of errands and yeah, just catching up with people because there's a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while. So it's been good to be back a little bit here.
Have some time, I'm sure, even with your parents and family and everything. And you know, are you still always constantly training, or is that something you can take a little break from?
A little break, intense training. I don't have anything until September that I need to be at full 100% go for, so I'll probably stay off the ice a little bit longer, rest up my body. I have a few things I gotta get fixed, so that's kind of the way it is after I don't even know how many years of intense training without really a break. So working out a little bit, but definitely taking some time.
And you know, what's kind of the next step for you then? Is there, you know, like another World Championships or another big event before the next Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, there's World Championships every year other than the Olympic year. So September is the start of the new training year for us, and there'll be World Championships next April. So that's kind of the next thing I have going for me.
Now, I understand, you know, you've won championships, you know, to college level and other national championships before this Olympics. You know, how does this compare? I mean, is this completely different, or is there some similarities to each one?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, actually, and it's a good problem to have, trying to compare championships. I won 3 national championships at Minnesota, and those were unbelievable. And it's hard to compare the differences between that and an Olympic gold medal because I don't know. It's just impossible to compare. But I'm lucky for each one of them, and I wouldn't trade any for anything. So I'm pretty happy.
And have you gotten tired of showing off the gold medal yet? I know, especially at that event, obviously, especially with kids, you know, every 2 seconds I could see that somebody was, you know, taking a look at it or putting it on.
No, it's so cool. When you hand it to someone, I've learned to make sure I hold it until they really have a grasp of it, because nobody realizes how heavy it is until you actually hold it. And that's the first thing you hear is, wow, I didn't think it'd be that heavy. And they do the whole like drop. I'm like, and it's been dropped a few times, which is fine, but I'm trying to minimize that because it's got a few dents in it.
Definitely. And are you hoping to you know, take part in the next Olympics in 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think for right now my answer would be yes. Obviously I have to continue to make the team and stay healthy, but I think as of now I would like to be there.
That's still, even though time goes fast, that still is a long ways off. I'm sure you're still in that nice period now where you can just kind of savor what's happened and get ready for the next thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I'm afraid we're out of time, but I want to thank you so much for coming by today, and congratulate you again on all your success. And hopefully we'll be chatting with you again in the future with maybe another gold medal or world championship.
For sure. All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Hannah Brandt joining us in studio for an interview. Such an amazing thing to bring home the gold to the United States. Go USA. And now Hannah Brandt was certainly a stellar athlete when she played in high school, but it's time to highlight some of the current Fab Four athletes. It's time again for My Athletes of the Week. For my male athlete of the week, I'm going with White Bear lacrosse player Eric Bloom. He had 4 goals and 2 assists in a blowout win over Creighton-Durham Hall last night. The kid's on fire, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. And for my female athlete of the week, I have to go with junior pitcher Ashton Putzier, who, as I said earlier this year, she's absolutely dealing on fire, throwing some gas. She has a perfect record 5-0 with a 1.85 ERA. And if you didn't win this award, you know, there's only one sports path left, so keep playing hard. I'll be scouring the stat boxes. And, well, folks, that's it for this edition for Athletes of the Week. All right, folks, we'd like to thank you for joining us here on SEC TV, and that's a wrap for Sports Path. We can't wait to see you guys on May 16th.